In the first of our daily devotional thoughts today, we want to look at our reading in the book of Genesis. And our theme is basically this. You have to learn in life to remember that people's attitudes change. Let me say that again. You have to remember in life that people's attitudes change. And sometimes you and I still relate to someone as if they don't change. Only God doesn't change. People's attitudes are constantly changing. Now, Abraham understood this when it was regarding the king of Sodom. In Genesis 14, beginning with verse 21, the king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give back my people who were captured, but you may keep for yourself all the goods you have recovered." Abram replied to the king of Sodom, "I solemnly swear to the Lord, the God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, that I will not take so much as a single thread or sandal thong from what belongs to you. Otherwise, you might say," he said, "I have to think about your attitudes in the future. You might say, I am the one who made Abram rich. I will accept only what my warriors have already eaten. I request that you give a fair share of the goods to my allies, to Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre." Now, Abraham understood that as the culture of that day allowed, all the spoils of war belonged to him, and he was in total control of the spoils of war. But he also knew, you know what, I live close to Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. In fact, I live right next door to Mamre. And he said, I live pretty close, and I'm going to have to go through the Jordan River Valley on a regular basis. And, my nephew Lot is going to live down there in Sodom, and, I'm going to have to go down and visit him sometimes. And he said, you know what, I don't need this guy developing a bad attitude toward me as if somehow what I have belongs to them. And then they take that out of my nephew and everything else. Abram had wisdom. He understood that when things happen, people may say everything is all right, but later you find that their attitudes change. When they have to go home and start from zero and know that everything that they used to have is now yours, people's attitudes change. So tremendous wisdom here of learning to remember. Don't accept things from people because sometimes their attitudes change toward you. Now, that said, Abraham forgot this with Hagar. In Genesis 16, verses 1 to 6, you know the story about Abram's wife had not been able to bear children, so she said, "I want you to take Hagar." So in verse 4, Abram has sexual relations with Hagar. She became pregnant. But when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to mistreat her mistress, Sarah, with contempt. When Hagar felt that she had the advantage, her attitudes changed. Now, why didn't Abram think about this when it came to Hagar? Maybe because she was a servant, or maybe because he didn't think about it, because this was a person picked up in a season of disobedience. God never told him to go down to Egypt. God told him to go into the promised land. In a time of famine, he felt forced, and he went down to Egypt until Pharaoh threw him out. But even when he came out of Egypt, notice, but he had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. He picked up this servant in the season of disobedience. Now, brothers and sisters, I want you to understand, sometimes you can know a great truth, okay? People's attitudes change, kaya, be careful. But when you've picked up things in a season of disobedience, added things to your life in a season of disobedience, sometimes you don't think about those things. And obviously, he did not. As soon as she felt she had the advantage over Sarah because she was pregnant, her attitudes changed, and she began to treat Sarah with contempt. Now, brothers and sisters, there's lessons that you have to learn here. And one of those lessons is this. When people feel they have the advantage over you, then you see who they really are. See, as long as Hagar felt that she was a servant, she kept her attitudes in check. But the day that she felt she had the advantage, we saw the real Hagar. Now, beloved, you're going to have to learn. If you really want to know who people are, learn who they are when they think they have the advantage over you. And when they have the advantage over you, and there's nothing that you can do, That's when you find out who people really are. So learn. People's attitudes change. Learn. When people's attitudes toward you change, because they have the advantage, you just saw who they really are.